YouTube, how's it going? The Goat House is back, and we reacted to every single ranking from NFL Network's Top 100 list of 2019. We also compared each player's rank to my rank based off last season. So now, since the show is over, I've gathered up to 29 snubs, 29 players that made my list that did not make NFL Network's list. And we're going to talk about those players, those 29 players, and what rank they were on my list. So a lot to go over here. Really enjoyed making this, preparing for this. So hopefully you enjoy it too. Subscriber goal, it's at 40K by the end of this year. It'd be much appreciated if you could subscribe to our channel and join us for all of our predictions leading up to the NFL season and during the NFL season. Full coverage, recaps, power rankings, all kinds of different predictions for NFL and college football. So hopefully you can join us. Click that like button. Check out our Twitter. All that would be much appreciated. Some good links in the description to help you out too. But let's start with the bottom group here. So number 97 on my list was Dak Prescott, quarterback of the Cowboys. So he made my list, did not make the NFL Network's list. I thought Dak had a very solid season. I thought he was very clutch, really controlled games. Maybe didn't wow in a whole bunch of games, but he really did what it took to get them to the playoffs. But like I said, he was clutch, so that may have wowed some at times. Really good down the stretch, making sure to not take his team out of the games and then scoring, last-second touchdowns or putting the team in field goal position at the last second of a game. So I thought that popped up a lot of times for him. Number 95 was Roquan Smith, the rookie linebacker from the Bears. I thought he had a great rookie season, did pretty much everything you can ask from him. He didn't really go through training camp because he was holding out. And he doesn't get bonus points for, not getting the training camp or the practice and still playing that good. I just think that's pretty spectacular. He was able to do everything, and I kind of expected everything from him, except I could see him struggling in coverage a bit, but he covered pretty well, surprisingly well. And then he got after the quarterback on blitzes as a middle linebacker. So he did pretty much everything there. He was number 95 on my list. Dante Jackson, the corner of the Panthers, was 94. I thought he was pretty productive. Teams tried to pick on him, and they soon realized they would have to pick on the other side or other defensive backs because he was legit when the ball was in the air. The speedy guy doesn't have the biggest size. You don't really expect the stick receivers to be as physical as he was. Not that he was super physical, but pretty impressive what he was able to do. Number 93 on my list was Anthony Harris, the safety of the Vikings. I thought he had a great season. Really his only really good year because it was his only starting season. But he was excellent in tackling and did very well in pass coverage as well. Vikings secondary, really the safeties really held it down last year. And then pictured here, number 91 on my list was Darius Smith, the former Ravens pass rusher, now on the Green Bay Packers, but my rankings were based off last year. So the Ravens pass rusher was very productive last year, very key in a lot of games. The Ravens defense was very, very good last year, and Darius Smith was a impact part of that defense. So he made it number 91 on my list and not make NFL Network's list. Let's take a look at 5 more players here. Coming in at number 90 was Denzel Ward on my list. I thought he had a great rookie season. Better than I thought, better than I expected going in. Obviously a top corner in the draft, the number 1 corner in the draft, and a great pick by the Browns. Maybe a little earlier than expected, but we knew he was a great player, a great prospect, but did not expect him to have that good of a rookie season. Shows what he's able to do for the future. So he was at 90 on my list. 88 from Sheldon Rankins. Very good season from him, very productive. Unfortunately, he missed some games. If he didn't miss some games, he would have been well up there, way higher in my rankings, but he was an impact player for the Saints. Another Ravens player at 87, and Tony Jefferson. Tony Jefferson didn't get the credit. Really, the Ravens defense didn't get the credit, outside this list and on this list. Maybe they're not getting the credit because the Bears defense was just so ridiculous last year. I thought the Ravens were actually not that far behind them. I thought they were easily the number 2 defense. Tony Jefferson was key for them. He blitzed a lot. That's really not the safety's job, but, as a football player, he was a good safety downfield too, but he was really key in blitzes. I would have to think, me watching them week after week, I was thinking that when teams had to game plan and watch film for this team, they were always worried about Tony Jefferson, and he kind of threw off teams' game plans, I think, because he was all over the place. He didn't get enough credit. 86 was Justin Houston, the edge rusher from the Chiefs. Now going to play defensive end for the Colts. and he was at 86. Not too many good players in that Chiefs defense, but there was some really good players, guys like D Ford, Chris Jones, and then Justin Houston. So I thought he should have made the list. 85 was Kenny Clark on my list and did not make NFL Network's list. Nose tackle from the Packers. Really productive season for a nose tackle. His number one job is to stop the run. He does that at a high level, but then he brings that bonus of getting after the quarterback and applying pressure to the quarterback. So that's what stood out to me. So I thought he definitely should have been on the list as well. He came in at 85. So now we're going to take a look at some more players that were snubs. Quite a few of them. 83 was David DeCastro, the Steelers offensive lineman. He plays guard for the Steelers. Definitely a snub. Expected him to be on the list. Some of these, even though they're higher on the list, it's not really surprising because of their name that they weren't on the list. But David DeCastro is a big name. Very surprised he wasn't on the list. Another Ravens defensive player, Marlon Humphrey, I thought was great last year. Another one better than expected. Takes that next jump forward. Was pretty much locked down even when targeted. A lot of pass deflections. And he's kind of made it so the Ravens don't really worry about locking up Jimmy Smith, who is a really good corner, because they have other good corners, but Marlon Humphrey is their number one going forward. Based off last year, they're very confident in that. So another Ravens guy showing up. Ryan Kerrigan, outside linebacker of the Redskins, a pass rusher, always consistent, always gets good amount of pressure and sacks. He was 80 on my list. Was very surprised he wasn't on the list. Joe Mixon had a very solid year, number 79 on my list. A running back that can run pretty much anywhere, in between the tackles, outside, catch the ball downfield, natural hands catching the ball, can break tackles. I mean, he showcased it all last year. Definitely did enough to be on this list. 77 was John Johnson, the safety from the Rams. Another defensive back not on the list that should have been. I thought he had a very, very good season last year. Almost like everyone else was watching something different, I guess, based off what I was watching, because people rave about LaMarcus Joyner. I thought 2 years ago LaMarcus Joyner had a great season. Last year, I was very, very disappointed with LaMarcus Joyner's season. I thought John Johnson really carried that group there at times, and we've seen Aqib Talib out of games too. So I thought John Johnson really carried that group, unless it was fully healthy. And the corners obviously did work too, but I thought John Johnson was very, very clearly the better safety of that duo last year. Talk about some more players here. We got number 76 was Chris Carson, running back of the Seahawks. Seahawks had, I guess, the best running game in football. A big reason was Chris Carson, the ability to run anywhere, but in between the tackles and break the tackles. It's kind of good to see one of those. He's not really an old school back, but it kind of brings you back a little bit. Not too many of those types of guys anymore, and he was pretty dominant for them. The run game being so successful was a big reason they're able to open up the pass game downfield. That and Russell Wilson's a darn good quarterback. But Chris Carson, based off his running game last year, definitely belonged on the list. Teron Armstead, I thought had a great season too. Surprised he wasn't on the list. Offensive tackle from the Saints. And then 73 was Marshall Yanda, another Ravens player. So the Ravens were just snubs of this list. One of the better guards in football. Definitely should have been on the list. 73 on mine. Snacks Harrison at 71. Probably was the best nose tackle based off last year alone. And he was at 71 on my list. Should have been on the list. And Chris Harris Jr. Of the Broncos, could argue the best slot corner in the game. And it has some reps outside as well. So he comes in at 70. Did miss a few games there, so definitely would have been much higher if it wasn't for that. Another one that I'm surprised because of the name and how good he's played that he wasn't on the list for NFL Network's top 100 list, apparently voted by the players. 68, another Saints player and another offensive lineman from the Saints, actually, and Ryan Ramczyk. Thought he had a real consistent year. 62, another guy was very surprised wasn't on the list, Desmond King. Top-notch slot corner early on in his career. Seen him line up at safety at times too. Very surprised he didn't make the list. He was very dominant. 61, Kevin Byard, one of the better safeties in football. For that reason, another one that I just can't believe wasn't on the list. I thought better 2 years ago than last year, but still played very well to get to number 61 on my list. 60 was Kiko Alonso, another linebacker that did a bit of everything, and I thought that was plenty enough to get him on the list at 60 for me. Not one that I'm not too surprised he wasn't on the list, because kind of known as a dirty player, so I guess he gets penalized for that maybe. Shaq Mason, one of the better guards in football, one of the better guards of last year, 58 on the list. I think Patriots offensive line, for being one of the top-notch top-tier offensive line units maybe don't get enough love here. So Shaq Mason was at 58. So the guys that were in the top 50 on my lists, we're going to talk about now. So there's 4 remaining players that were snubs. These are the big snubs. Top 50 on my list. Let's take a look. Quentin Nelson, the rookie guard of the Colts, was number 50 exactly on my list. I guess he didn't make it because he was a rookie maybe, but very surprised he wasn't on the list, especially because of that Colts offensive line unit turning around from worst to first. I know it's not all on him, coaching changes, scheme changes a little bit there, and add a couple other guys, or a guy like Braden Smith. But Nelson was a big part of that, and an offensive lineman that really stands out on each play. So I thought he easily should have made the list. 50 for me. Next player was Chandler Jones. How the hell did Chandler Jones not make the list? All the pass rush productivity he brings really carried that Cardinals team, I guess, along with a couple other guys. But the pass rusher that can play D-end or play outside linebacker, we see the Cardinals switching defenses this year, I thought easily is a big snub. Easily should have made the list. He was at 41 for me, all the way up at 49, 41 not making the list. But there's 2 guys ranked higher, believe it or not, that didn't make the list. 32, another Patriots offensive lineman now on the Raiders, Trent Brown. I thought was one of the better tackles of the season. There's a reason he got paid by the Raiders or any team. The Raiders weren't the only team offering him in that ballpark, in that range of money. Plenty of teams were looking to get him. There's a reason why he got that money. It's because how he played. Now, I'm not going to guarantee he plays that is that good, or I'm not going to guarantee he's worth that contract, because we see what happens, specifically in the offensive line group, or pretty much anywhere when players go from Patriots to pretty much anywhere else. At the same time, I'm not saying he's not going to be good. It was a solid signing for the Raiders, but my point is he got that money because the way he played last year easily belonged on this list, number 32 on mine. And then who's the biggest winner, or loser, I should say. But the highest rated guy on my list that did not make NFL Network's list was another Patriots. But another Patriot that's not on the Patriots anymore, now on the Lions. Defensive end, Trey Flowers, number 23. 23 on my list, not on NFL Network's list. Very dominant all season. I thought last year was his best year of his career by far. Consistently gets pressure. Also can stop the run, which I guess isn't talked about enough. And then to add on top of everything he did in the regular season, the playoff run with him, he was just excellent in the playoffs. Beyond excellent in the playoffs. So that kind of added on top a very good regular season, which I guess moved him up a little bit because I based most of it off the regular season. But top-notch play in the postseason gets a little bonus points, I guess. So 23 is where he landed on my list. We'll see if it continues to play that way. The Lions got a pretty good one there. The Patriots, former Patriots, plenty of them made their way on this list. I didn't count on each team, but I also noticed there was quite a bit of Ravens and maybe some Saints players too. And I just realized the first 2 pages technically showed the picture of 2 current Packers players, because the first one was Darius Smith, who's now on the Packers. Next one was Kenny Clark, something I just realized now. So interesting, the players. A lot of offensive linemen too. A lot of offensive linemen here. So very interesting. Let me know your guys' thoughts. Any ones that were on neither list, neither mine or NFL Network's list, that should have been on there in your opinion. Love to see any of those. Love to see the discussions in the comments. Please hit that like button. I don't know what I was trying to say. And give us a subscription, I guess. Does that make sense? All right, we're going to go with that. But yeah, we got you covered. In season, full coverage. I can't wait. Can't wait to do all that content. Can't wait for football, college or NFL. I'm pumped. That's going to do it for this one, though. Thanks, everyone, for watching. Goodbye.